Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hope you all had a good night's sleep. Our neighbors were complaining that my husband and I were very quiet last night. I said, okay, I was reading. I didn't know I needed to do any noises of sort. What a great start to be here last night. What an amazing welcome, food, music, and fun. Thank you so much to all who have really made this weekend possible. I don't remember all your names, so just take it. And thank you also for having me. I thought I live in Portland, close to the Big Rideau Lake. And I thought I lived in a beautiful, gorgeous area till last night or yesterday afternoon. I realized what a beautiful spot is to be right by a living water right there. So it was just awesome. I also wanted to take a moment and say thank you for taking the time yesterday and recognizing the traditional territory. Because I have learned in the last 18 months or so that whenever we recognize the territories of our brothers and sisters who have lived before us and continue to live alongside with us, we are actually taking the time and thanking the Creator for this space and time that is being offered to us. So it has a lot to do with learning how to live with one another, but it has to do also with the fact of being grateful for what God has given to us, for us to be stewards of keeping this world, this land, as best as we can. As God said, it is good. We continue to do our best to recognize each other. You know, one of the things that is so important these days is that people feel that they are unheard, unseen, they are nothing. So one of the most important things to tell someone, I see you. You are here. I recognize you. And if there's things that we need to reconcile, try our best to reconcile and to continue on a journey in harmony and love. So how was your first night of rest? Cool? Under the wings of the Almighty. When people ask me, do you do weddings outside the church? I say, of course, because for me, the sky is the ceiling, is the roof of the temple of God. So it's all good. You know, knowing what is waiting for me and for my husband, don't tell him I'm telling you this. In Lebanon, a hot water from the faucet directly from the shower was so good last night. Because I know in Lebanon, when we go back, it's going to be just like when I was a little girl, where you boil a barrel of water and mix it with cold water in pail and then try to take a shower. So it felt so luxurious yesterday. And I know we have all this and more at home, but just the anticipation of going to Lebanon has already got me going, ooh, I wonder how's Gary going to do. I grew up like that, so. And I want to say a huge thank you. I don't know who it was, but whoever brought the little shampoos and the little hotel-y stuff in our bathroom, thank you so much, because of all the things, I forgot to pack shampoo. It's important, you know. I spend a lot of time on this. Like not. For those of you who have asked if these talks are going to be somewhere, well, they are. Thanks to my husband who runs my website. Here's a plug for you, honey. For free for me. So these are being recorded, videotaped. So you are more than welcome to go and hear them over and over again if you're not sick of me, and then share them with others. So you can just go to my website, revtakuhi.ca, and it will be there, and it is free. So all good. Have you had the chance to think of your life's journey so far, or were you just too busy talking and laughing, and which is important too? Did you have a chance to think maybe about the storms that you have faced in your life in the past? Or maybe some of you are facing storms right now. Life's journey is never storm-free. If we are not going through it today, someone else is. So there are always storms brewing around us, if not directly within us or with us. I do not say these things to depress us on this glorious morning, but to remind us of the realities of life. We can never be 100% prepared for anything that happens to us in life. But I have some good news. And the good news is that behind every single stormy cloud, we know that the sun, the moon, and the stars are still present. Just like God is present even in the darkness of chaos and the void of our lives. Remember that the stars shine the brightest in the darkest moments of the night. So welcome. Welcome to a new day, a day that is full of hope, anticipation, courage, confidence, joy, peace, and excitement. Told you today we're going to get to know Ruth, not my sister, but Ruth from Moab, one of the daughters-in-law of Naomi from Bethlehem. So I hope you've got your passports on, because we're going on a journey between 500 and 1000 BCE. Are you ready? Yes. I believe often we need to go back in history to be able to have just a little understanding of the present time, and also to help us shape the future. So let us pray. Creator God, you have brought us this far on this journey, and you promise to never leave us nor forsake us. We are born from your love, live through your perfect love, and return to your everlasting care. This weekend, help us make this time a historical weekend where we find your courage in us once again, so that we continue to live as women and men of God whose lives are defined by your grace, wisdom, and love alone. Blessed be your name today and always. Amen. I'm not going to ask you to put your hands up if you read the book of Ruth or not, but if you got a chance to read the book, good for you. And if you didn't, this is what's called grace. So this is grace period. Here is a little background about the story of Ruth. Many say that this book should have been called the book of Ruth and Naomi, or rather the book of Naomi and Ruth, because the story begins with Naomi and her family. And Naomi is the older one, so her name should go first, everyone says. Remember, age is sage, wisdom, and maturity. Seriously, here we go. Naomi is married to a man named Elimelech. They live in Bethlehem of Judea. At that time, a famine causes them to move with their 2 sons to Moab, a foreign land. While there, Elimelech dies. His sons married 2 local girls, Orpah and Ruth. By the way, whoever knows Oprah Winfrey, she was named after this character, Orpah, but they made a mistake in spelling her name. So it became Oprah instead of Orpah. Here's a fun fact for you. Run with it. So after living there for 10 years, the sons also die. Near destitute, Naomi decides to return back home to Bethlehem, where at least she says that she has some old friends and extended family that she can hang with in her senior years. This morning, we pick up from chapter 1, verses 8 to 9 and 14 and 17. And I will be reading that part from the New International Version. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show you kindness, as you have shown kindness to your dead husbands and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." At this, they wept aloud. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." Don't know about you, but I got some spirit bumps by just reading those words. Just imagine a woman with a husband and 2 sons, then 2 daughters-in-law, and all of a sudden, no husband, no sons, no security of life. In this helpless state, she thinks to herself, maybe, just maybe, she can go back to her roots to live her last days of her life quietly with some extended family and pass away in peace. Not such a happy story, is it? Talk about a storm patch that Naomi gets hit in her mature age on her life's journey. Beloved, the book of Ruth is not that popular as far as I know. But I remember back on September 1, 2012, in Ayerscliffe, Quebec, where I was serving at Magog, Ayerscliffe, and Georgeville Pastoral Charge, at Beulah United Church, a couple actually chose this passage for their wedding. And what a profound scripture choice it became for these 2 individuals for whom this marriage was wedding number 2. But it was clear for these couple that they each had gone through hardships in their previous marriages, and this second relationship was a transformative one. Their hardships had transformed them and helped them to find each other. Therefore, a new, transformed relationship was just covenanted together on that day. The story of Ruth and Naomi is not a story in a bubble, just like the entire Bible, beloved. The Reverend Dr. Walter Bergman says that the Bible is our most treasured book, yet it seems so difficult that we do not find it very helpful. Perhaps we have expected the wrong things from it. We have asked of it what it cannot do. In other words, we have made the Bible so precious that we have forgotten to look at the stories closely. With all the hardships and the ugliness, and we have forgotten how to apply all those things to our lives, which are imperfect. And we have thought, in this 21st century, the Bible stories that do not apply for us. But the Bible stories still are relevant for all of us today. You can quote me on that. Beloved, I have come to learn a little bit about the Bible, and I am not, and I repeat, I am not a biblical scholar, but I have come to understand this much for myself. The Bible is the sacred stories of God that a few individuals have written down their experiences with this entity, this presence that we refer to as God. Has been attempted to understand God fully. We attempt to verbalize, to speak, and write. But in reality, these are just little experiences. And we have not been able to fully understand God because God is mystery with a capital M, as the late Marcus Borg always said. But we, the church, over the centuries have made the Bible so high up on a ladder, untouchable, maybe not so much in the United Church, but in majority of churches. We have made the Bible so untouchable that we have turned this treasure of God experiences to be invalid, to be just an ancient book that it is not possible to help us anymore. So we, the society, so-called Christian society, has discounted the value the Bible has for us today. If you ask me, the Bible is the most provocative, mysterious, romantic, poetic, medicinal book on earth. Before soap operas were created, there was Adam, Eve, and the serpent. Before there was Dynasty Dallas and the Keeping Up with the Kardashians, there was Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. Who says the Bible is boring? The Bible actually offers us a way of understanding the world in a fresh perspective. A perspective that leads to life, joy, and wholeness. It offers us a model, a pattern, through which we may think about, perceive, and live life differently. Not for only once in a lifetime, but for every generation over and over again, the Bible applies to our daily life. Beloved, we are still writing the Bible by our life's journey. Did you know that you were an author? Not because you have a book released. It was weird 2 years ago when my book of poetry, prayers, and photography came up and somebody said, now we have to address you as author as well. I said, what? But we are all authors because we are writing the Bible still with our life's journey, by our own experiences of God. If we take the Bible more seriously and stop making it a book of code of conduct, more people will be wanting to open it up and read it. The Bible is not a book of conduct. Just look at all the lying, cheating, the killing that takes place in it. And if we have not talked about all the rape and the ugliness of life that is found in the Bible, I don't know what Bible you're reading. But the stories do not stop there. The Bible is a book that reminds us that there is life, that there is power for the weak, that there is transformation and there is wholeness. And this is all possible because of the God who journeys with us. Friends, the story of Ruth and Naomi is a simple one. Just like all the stories of the Bible, just like yours and mine. It is a simple story of two women, one old, one young, or should I have said one mature, one young. Both childless, vulnerable, both marginal to the systems around them, who find themselves dealing with limited resources, deep pain, a hostile world, and a great concern for the situation of the other. Did you hear the last phrase? They both had great concern for the situation of the other. In other words, they cared for each other. In their own destitute, they did not stay focused on their own self alone, but expressed care for each other. Naomi tells Ruth, go back to your mother's home so that you can be with your family and not be in danger, because being a widow or divorced at that time was dangerous. Hopeless and helpless situation to be at. And I am sure there are still places in the world that it is dangerous to be either a widow or divorced woman. But Ruth says, I am not leaving you alone because I know this world is hostile and you need protection. Maybe Ruth does not have any money, but at least traveling with someone else alongside this journey of life is better than traveling alone. For both of them. In Armenian, we have a saying which barely can be translated correctly, but here is the gist of it. We say, "Partsvatsur vo partsvanas," which means lift someone up and you will be lifted up with them automatically. Of course, the narrator of the story does not say much details like this. But if you have ever experienced the hostile world and you have been hurt by it, you know what you need to do for the other one who is in the same situation as you. You stand by them no matter what. Next time, pay attention. What moves you to help others? When the Ontario United Church Ministers did the video letter to our Premier, Mr. Ford, in July, my colleague, the Reverend Tricia Elliott from Ottawa area, asked me if I could record the refugees part of the letter for the video myself, as it is something that I know, that I have experienced, and I understand. And of course, I thought that was just fitting, Because how much more powerful it is when we understand a situation of someone else, because we have also gone through it ourselves. Beloved, life is not just what happens to us while we are busy making other plans, like late John Lennon said. But the most important part of life's journey is what you do with what happens to you. I remember in 2011 when I first ever went to Cuba with my seminary class. It was my last year of theology school, Montreal School of Theology, and Reverend Suarez. He was such an amazing, powerful man, this high, this tall, I should say. I just wanted to grab him and bring him home with me because he said, "Are you a Christian of the way that you're journeying? Or are you a Christian on the balcony?" Some of us would just watch what's going on. I think there is a saying, and I'm not going to get this correct in my head, something along, some people make things happen, other people watch things happen, and the third group says, "What just happened?" So what do you do with what life serves you? Our lives are not just a collection of incidences. What we do, what life throws at us, depends on us, and it shapes the world alongside. The Buddhists say your wounds are not necessarily your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. Your wounds are not necessarily your fault, but your healing is your responsibility. We each come as we are. We each have a name. Mine happens to be Takuhi, which means queen. My husband's is Gary, which means trophy husband for Takuhi. Good thing there is a pillar there. He can't see me. I can't see. Others are called Linda, which means beautiful, and so on and so forth. I know some of our names have deeper meanings than others, but this is not a competition because our names are whatever we've been given. But the most important name that's been given to all of us by God is beloved. For Naomi, her name is a feminine Hebrew name, which means, are you ready for it? It means my joy or pleasantness. It is intriguing that in her life journey, she faced not one, not two, but threefold grief, and her name is my joy. Isn't the universe funny? Right? Or maybe this is a story teaching the hearer that no matter what life throws at you, you can find joy deep within. Imagine every time she felt helpless and hopeless and someone called her name, "Naomi, let's have coffee." "Oh, my joy, let's have coffee." What did she feel? Did she feel that God was calling her, reminding her that what the world gives you is not the end of the story? There is joy within that no one in the world can give you. As for Ruth, her name means companion, friend. I wonder, Is it another name to teach the hearer what does a companion, a friend look like? A good friend is generous, loyal, and loving. And Ruth checks them all. She proves that. And she also shows that she is strong, serene, and able to take unusual risks. I assure you that this type of story was not the norm of that time. Look at the other daughter-in-law, Orpah. When Naomi said to Orpah and Ruth, "Go back home to your mother's house," they cried, she cried, and then Orpah turned around and said, "Hasta la vista, mother-in-law. See ya when I see ya. Bye-bye now," and left the building. But Ruth, exactly, she did exactly what she was told. But Ruth stayed. Ruth, a generous, loyal, loving person. So sometimes it's good to disobey. She had not only lost her husband, she also lost her friends, her family, her homeland, when she moved with her mother-in-law to Bethlehem. Ruth chose to leave her comfort zone to be with the woman who is alone, who is destitute, who needs help. Beloved, these women could have very easily said, I'm going to try to be one of the elderly grandmothers I had, that she would say, "Oh, this was God's will. So whatever God gives, whatever is written on my forehead, it's going to happen. So it's all good." It's an Armenian thing. But these women, they could have said, "This appears as God's one and only will for us." And they could have not done anything about it. But they stretched themselves to the limits to find the God who waits for them in what they have yet to become. They stretched themselves to find the God who waits for them in what they have yet to become. A defining moment not only in her life, but also in Naomi's and the lives of many after them, as Ruth marries Boaz, and they become the great-grandparents of King David, from whose family lineage comes Jesus of Nazareth. She is mentioned in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 1. What do we do when hardships hit us determines not just the present time, but also the future? Do we want to escape them or to go over them or try to put them under the carpet so that no one can see, out of sight, out of mind, or go through them and come out of that process of the hardship as a transformed person? All the hardships and the struggles of life wounds us. But those wounds, they become scars, and scars do not bleed anymore. But they remind us that we have made it through. Scars transform us with hope, fill us with courage, and give us confidence and strength to carry on. Struggles of life might break us temporarily, but they shape us. Do you know how diamonds come to shine so marvelously? Diamonds are cut in such a way so that the light ray falling on the diamond is reflected multiple times inside the diamond and then send light out to all directions. The diamond is not, and I repeat, does not shine by herself. It is a solid form of carbon, but the pressure it goes through and the cuts that she receives reflect the light that shines upon her and in her and through her. And that fly wants a piece of me. Did you know that the most natural diamonds have ages between 1 billion and 3.5 billion years? Who says we're old? Aging is not bad. Embrace it and thank God for it. Seriously though, being cut, broken, pressurized is not easy. A diamond goes through all that. But it is through the broken places of life that we see the light coming through. Or how we glue the broken pieces makes a difference. In the Japanese tradition, there is an art form called kintsugi or kintsugi, I'm not sure, which is a centuries-old art of repairing broken pottery with liquid gold. So when something is broken, they glue them together with liquid gold. And when the item is dried up and stuck together, God is calling you. Answer the call. So together, the gold that is used to glue the item together, the broken pieces together, becomes part of the original work of art. And that makes the item even more beautiful. Can you see that? I wasn't sure how many ladies are showing up this weekend, so I have 49 of these ready for you to take home. And whoever has email, I will send them to you. Give me your email. So these women such as Naomi, Ruth, or go to the other biblical stories, to Miriam, Rachel, Sarah, Leah, and as well to the men, we're not sexist here, Moses, Jacob, Abraham, and others. Ruth makes a bold choice to go where she has never gone before. When my sister Ruth, who was the first one with my sister Shirley, came to Canada in 1986 in June, she turned around and she said, I was in Los Angeles at that time. She said, why don't you also move to Canada? That way we all belong. The Canadian government is accepting people from Lebanon to call Canada home. So let's be refugees in Canada. I said, okay. Yay! Truly, thank God. So this Ruth of the Bible was not even an Israelite. But she sure acts like a woman filled with faith and trust in God. Beloved, this society, we have separated each other so much that we don't think that if somebody is not doing exactly what we're doing, they don't have any faith. It's not up to you to decide. It's not up to me to decide. Look at Ruth. A woman from Moab acts and trusts with faith. God is present in every single human being, beloved. But we all express our experiences of God in different ways, with different words. Hopefully not so much words. Ruth does not let her past hold her hostage. As you journey on in this life, be open. Be open to that shift that takes place in you. Be open, be attentive to that shifting of the inside of you, because the moment that shift takes place in you, we are no longer the same person that we used to be. We are transformed. We are changed. Many of you have heard my life journey so many times maybe, so forgive me if you're going to hear a story that you've already heard before, but I only have one life to live and I only have one story to tell, so it doesn't change. So here is a piece of pieces of my life. In July of 1983, one morning, my mother, this is back in Beirut, to be exact, in Burj Hamid, where I grew up. By the way, the initials for Burj Hamid is BH, correct, Burj Hamid. So when I lived in Los Angeles, I used to say, I'm from BH. And people said, you live in Beverly Hills? Yes, I should not quit my day job. So in July of 1983, one morning my mother said, get up and go to the US Embassy to get a visa to go to the States, where my eldest sister Silva and my brother Jacob were already living there. And they still do to this day in California. Our family, I think somebody yesterday at supper time said something along the lines, oh, the whole family is spread out all in the province of Ontario or something. And in my head I said, well, my family is spread up all around the world, so figure that one out. Yes, our family is all over the world almost. So in 4 countries, I was trying to think last night, and think I have about 4 countries where I have family. So let's go back to the story. I looked at my mother funny way, as I usually do or did, and said, Mom, the US Embassy refused me 7 times. What makes you think they will give it to me this time? A visa to go to the States. Her answer was, which was also her favorite phrase of all time, the one in me told me. Now I look back, when I was preparing for today's root story, I realized that that morning something in my mother had shifted. Something had moved her. Of course I said, hold on, I'm smarter than you think, you know. By the way, when I was a young girl, my aunt, my mother's mom, she used to call me a lawyer without a briefcase. So I said, who's going to take me? Because my sister Ruth, who was the one who drove, she was actually in California visiting with my dad, because my dad had never seen the children since the 70s, so they went to visit. And I'm like, who's going to take me? And my mom said, Avedis will take you, the eldest son of the neighbor living across the street. By the way, just to give you an inside information, the boy's name, Avedis, actually means good news in Armenian. Whenever we celebrate Easter or Christmas, Ezi Medz Avedis, let there be good news to you and us. So my mom continued to say that she was certain that Avedis would be more than happy to drive Ruth's car and take me like any teenager would love to drive a car that their parents don't let them drive. I'm telling you, I had no way out. My mother was on fire. Avedis and I went to the embassy. We waited and waited and waited. Just recently, one of our Portland congregants is a retired Canadian ambassador to the other parts of the world. He said, don't forget, as soon as you get to Lebanon on September 12, September 13, I urge you to go to the embassy in Canada, the Canadian embassy in Beirut, and register you and Gary that you are in Lebanon. So the moment he said that, in my head, I remembered those long lineups. But then I said, hold on. I'm a Canadian. I don't think I will have a long lineup because they will say, come on in. But we waited and waited and waited in 1983. And then guess what? At noon, the guard said, the doors are closed for lunch. Come back at 1:30. So I went back home. I'm like, yes, I win. So we went back home. And of course, Avedis is already thinking that we are going back to the embassy so that he can drive back and forth, you know. So I went home and I said, Mom, this is a waste of time. She said, no, it's not. She said, have some lunch and go back. I said, Mom, you know what? If my girlfriend across the street, Shorik, would also come with me, that would be awesome. So that at least, you know. And, you know, teenagers, full of terms and conditions. Well, guess what? My friend across the street, she was so happy. She said, yeah, I'll come with you. I've got nothing to do. So she came along. We went to the U.S. Embassy, and at that time, the Marines were in Beirut. And my friend Shorik and I said, maybe we would work up the courage and go speak one of the Marines or something, you know. Practice English. At about 3:45 that day, I made my way in front of one of those embassy's officers, which were behind like a bank teller cage kind of a thing, behind a thick glass. I imagine they were bulletproof glasses or something. Now that I think back, I have no clue, you know. And the woman, let's call her the teller, the officer, she looked at me, she said, I see you've applied a few times. You even applied at the embassy in Nicosia, Cyprus. I said, yeah. You've been times. I said, yeah. She said, why are you here? I said, because my mother told me so. Listen, I believe in honesty. Because if you're honest, you don't have to remember what you said. You just tell the truth. If you tell a lie, you got to remember what did you say, you know, what did you tell people and stuff. So she looked at me after a long pause. She smiled. She said, go to the cashier at that corner and pay $4 US. I said, what? I'm getting a visa? She said, yes. I said, thank you. I went and paid. Yes, leaving home and coming to a new place is hard to imagine. Especially if you had to leave your country through the mountainous roads of Lebanon to Syria. where rebels and killers and news of people dying the day before you hit that road was unescapable. But that's an entirely another story. Hope I'll share it with you tomorrow. Beloved, life's journey is not that easy. But like Ruth, we need to listen to the shifting that is happening inside of us by the Spirit of God. And continue believing that there is still life to be lived and move forward in that confidence, even if the whole world around you is crumbling down. The call of God always calls us forward, just like Lot's wife. If you remember her, and if you don't, go read your Genesis stories. We are called not to turn back, but go forward into the new promised life that is ahead and that requires letting go of the past and going forward with faith. Faith does not need to look big. We don't need to show off anything. Faith can be as small as a mustard seed. Have you seen one? Good. Ruth trusted that God will provide. Hebrews chapter 1 verse 1 says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Beloved, miracles are not magical performances by God, but miracles require our partnership with God. When the little pastoral charge in Rideau Lakes Township called the Elgin Portland Pastoral Charge, where I served for the last 5.5 years or so, agreed to promote peace through education for the Syrian refugee children in Lebanon, that is a miracle in itself. That is when a miracle is born. The miracle is not the money. Yes, it would be good to have as much as possible. I was aiming for $35,000 just for the sake of numbers. You know, the Tupperware lady in me and the party light lady in me has to have goals and this. Yes, I used to sell candles and accessories. Now I give out the free light of God. It's good because I said 35 years out of Lebanon, 35,000 will be awesome. $1,000 for each year to give back. And then a little voice said, money? It's not about the money, Takuhi. It's about the fact that you are standing in solidarity with those people. There are over 400,000 children, refugee children in Lebanon, who cannot afford to go to school. 400,000. There's 77,000 children who no longer have any immediate family. That means no mother, no father, no sister, no brother, no uncle, no grandma, immediate family. One of the congregants in Elgin said, you know, Takuhi, I feel like we are just planting seeds for an orchard of love. Take that image and run. Especially with us, with so many farmlands around us, we see many orchards. We started this as of January, or to be exact, December 30th. And as of last night, we're almost at $22,000. Isn't it great? But again, it's not the money. It's the fact that when I contacted the very first woman ordained minister in the Middle East, Rola Sleiman, in Tripoli, Lebanon, which is 2.5 hours north of Beirut, close to the Syrian border. And when she tells me they can't wait to see me and to greet me and take me to the 2-3 schools that they are serving these refugee kids. These refugee kids don't want to go home, and there is not just Christian or Muslim, it's a mixed group, so there is no faith separation of any way. These kids don't want to go home for the weekend. They want to stay. We did this Elgin Portland initiative not to get any accolades of any sort. We just wanted to do it because it is the right thing to do. I know we have to meet the needs of our neighbors right here, right now. But we know we have more than enough, not just for our neighbors here, but across the ocean. We just want to do it because it is the right thing to do. Just like Ruth did what she did, without knowing that her story will be read and heard by millions and millions of people. Beloved, live your life in such a way to leave imprints of love and love and love and love and love alone. Let your life's journey, legacy be love without expecting anything in return. They put a plaque somewhere with your name on it, or they don't. Who gives a who? Right? God gives us everything. God is not asking us to put plaques with his name on it or her name on it. All we need to do is to give back. To give back to God by serving and taking care of the others around us. With humbleness and with joy. Transformation does not just happen. It's not like abracadabra, poof, you're transformed. It requires revolution within your soul. And often you need to repeat things over and over again so that you train yourself. You know how old habits die hard? It's hard to create new habits, right? Ruth insisted on staying with Naomi. She went back to the fields of Boaz over and over again, and she ended up saving not just herself, but her mother-in-law, and also became a household name in the Hebrew Bible. A girl from Moab, a foreigner, becomes a household name in the Hebrew Bible, the chosen people. We keep on calling Israel the chosen people, ancient Israel. But in reality, God has chosen all of us. It's just that we read the stories of the ancient Israel, that's their perspective. But you are also chosen. We are chosen. Just go read the epistle of Peter, the letters. Against all odds, a new life came to Ruth and others because something shifted in her. For those of you who drive standard cars, you know what that is. Woo! Such a good feeling. God took a poor, hurting, outcast girl, woman, and healed her, provided her, and brought her to a great love with Boaz. But she had a part in it. God is not a puppeteer to manipulate us around. God did not pick me out of Lebanon and left behind so many others because I was so worth it. No. I know. God has given us choices to look for ways to travel on this life's journey. We also have responsibilities. My parents would have never been able to afford to send me out of Lebanon, but because of my sister Silva in California and the small church that she was part of, and it was called Fair Haven, there you go, it just came to me, they helped us with the financial needs of my journey. If we do nothing and wait for God to move us, we act like children and blame God for everything that has happened or not happened. Remind you of someone? I refuse to say their name. Yes, sometimes life forces our hand. But whatever may come, there is always a silver lining. Trust me. There is always beauty out of ashes. That's in the Bible, by the way. Ladies, in the book of Ruth, there is loss, change, transformation, aging, independence, respect, recognition, insight, empowerment, self-definition, invisibility, and fulfillment. Isn't that exactly what life's journey all about? We grow up, work hard, take care of families, stumble through relationships, endure losses, and in the course of it all, content too often alone with the complexities that come from trying to balance the values of the world around us with what our own experiences and talents and wisdom dictate. Beloved, Naomi and Ruth still speak to us today, September 8, 2018. As we face loss and change and risk and the unfamiliar in our lives. We cannot control everything in life, thank God. But we can control our thoughts, our mindset, our actions. Do we give up? Or do we listen to that shift that is happening inside of us and allow that shift to move us and transform us on this journey of life and transform the world alongside with us? The choice is up to you. God's not going to do it for you. We, you, and I have to do it with God. Thanks be to God. Amen. Don't forget, tomorrow is Esther. Her book is a little longer, but read at least chapters 1 through 4. See, I'm a good teacher, giving you just 4. So that you have an idea who she is, especially if you have not heard about her before. So thanks so much.